Wow, it looks really good. Hello, welcome to HJR Garage. I am Henry. So, for the last 10 months or so, we have been restoring this MGB, modifying it, loads of upgrades, and engine swapping it with this Jaguar AJ30 V6 with a RX-8 gearbox. We've done loads. If you need to go back and watch it, do so. In today's episode, I just want to get busy with doing stuff. So, ancillary systems, cooling systems, that type of stuff. I don't know 100% what I'm going to achieve, but I'm just going to rip into seeing how much I can get done of all these little bits that need to be done before we can kind of wire it up and get to try and start in the engine and stuff. So let's not waste any time. Let's just go straight for the cooling system first, which I'll explain to you now. So you might be able to see that I've got a electronic cooling pump. It's a Davis Craig unit, but supplied by Rocketeer cars. They retro mod MX-5s to have these AJ30 engines in. So the kit comes roughly in the right shape, but it needs some kind of cutting and fettling and stuff. So as you can see, this pipe's a bit too long. I need to cut it back so it fits to here, etc. And I need to try and fit a radiator in here, which is going to be extremely difficult for various reasons. Basically, I've got a MGB V8 radiator, but with the inlet and exit for an MX-5 engine. Now that's because the Rocketeer kit uses, well, obviously is designed to be put in an MX-5 and connected to an MX-5 radiator. So the idea is these outlets should be in exactly the right place, which they are. There's just other things in the way as well. Now this radiator was supplied by Frontline. So the code for Frontline is still running. So Frontline X HJR for 5% off all their bits. So do use that. I think it's been quite popular, especially with the quality of their bits and stuff. They've also supplied some cooling fans for me as well, and a controller for them and things. So I'm just going to crack on with trying to fit some of this pipe work to this pump and then measure up to see where I can put this radiator, because at the moment it's one of the biggest problems I've got. There's just not enough room for it. In a V8 MGB, the radiator goes about here. It connects to here on the front inner wings. Mine's a chrome bumper MGB. The radiator used to come to about here and stop. And it was like a half height one, whereas that obviously goes down below this little shelf here. Now, what's stopping me from cutting that back is the anti-roll bar. And the anti-roll bar is an aftermarket unit, and it was expensive, and I do not want to modify it, because my initial idea was to move it further up and give myself more room for the radiator. But then those drop links hit the track rod ends, so that's not an option. I can't move that. So you can kind of see the issues I'm having. I need to try and make all this work in a very tight space. So I thought my first job should be putting all the pipe work in. That's kind of a set position then. Then I can work back from there and see how much space I've got. I've got about an inch that I can cut off that front kind of balancy bit. I don't want to have to do that, but I might have to do that. I've painted all the engine bay and stuff, so if I cut that, I'll have to be extremely careful and touch it up afterwards and stuff. So yeah, it's going to be a complicated one, but hopefully we can get this sorted. Right, you saw me cut that hose to size. Really hard to cut silicone hose, especially to cut it neatly. So I've done the best I can. It'll have to do. So you saw me also mark off where I'm going to have to cut this front. I'm going to call it front shelf? Front shelf. Let's call it a front shelf. That'll do. Behind the grille. Now, this will be behind the grille, and you actually can't see it once you put the grille on, apart from when you open the bonnet. But I still want to make it look good and neat, because the rest of the engine bay looks so good and neat. So I've drawn, basically it's the width of my ruler, and that gives me enough space from the, well, it's the maximum space from the anti-roll bar, because that's set back. Not ideal, but it's going to have to do. So I'm going to get to kind of the grinding disc and cutting that out as neatly as I can. And then we will dress the edges with a file probably. And then I will probably use a paintbrush and paint just that little front bit that's hopefully the only bit that's going to be a bare metal. We will see. That's annoying, isn't it? As I peeled off the tape, it ripped off the paint because I'd lost the kind of the sealing bit of it. I don't know. Obviously, maybe didn't quite on that bit at the front. I didn't prepare it quite the same. It was painted over pour 15. That's really annoying. So what I'll do is I'll tape up an area and paint it black. I think it is going to be what it is really. I managed to get a really neat cut. And then I thought, oh, that's good. And then I pulled the tape off and it pulled the paint off. So yeah, that's annoying. You can see the spot welds here. So I think I might tape up a section and paint it black, kind of to the corner there and across. Yeah, not ideal, but it is what it is, unfortunately. Right, I've been busy. I've been kind of just getting on with stuff. So I'll show you where I'm up to. I know. So it's all, as you would expect, it's all extremely tight. That's my thermostat, or going to be my thermostat. It's got some connections underneath for temperature and things. That has got to go to there. So I need to cut that down to make that the right size. Now, down there is my biggest issue. So you can see, I've put that hose down there. Does fit. I need a T-piece there. One to go to the heater box and the other to go to my expansion tank, because the MX-5 doesn't need that. So on the MX-5 you just have a connector there that goes up to the heater box. I need to have 2 points coming from there. So I need to figure out where that bottom hose is going to go and where the top hose is going to go, and if I've got enough room underneath my steering rack there to fit it. That's not, so I think I'm eating my microphone. That's not touching there just, so I'm going to be able to put some wraps around that, make sure it doesn't. But the steering rack is touching, but it's rubber on rubber. So I might be able to put something in the middle just to protect it, or bend that bottom hose down a little bit or something. I think it's going to be okay. I can't really bring the, obviously I could physically bring the radiator down a bit more by cutting a bit of the mounts, and that would give it kind of a bit of freedom to move. However, I've got to take into consideration that I'm putting fans on the front of this, and the fans fit perfectly at the height it is. So I think leaving it at that height is the only option really. Obviously I could cut more away of that front section and bring the fan down, but I don't want to have to do that. I might have to, but I don't want to. So I'm going to get on with fitting some more of these hoses and things, trying to cut them to the right size. And yeah, I'll get back to you once I've kind of got everything roughly in the right place. So there you go. That's that fitted. That follows a nice curve on there. It's not kinked, which is good. Probably a little bit tighter than I would have wanted it to be, but it's good. Connections from our ECU there. Little gap between there and the engine block. So now I need to put all my Jubilee clips on this top section anyway. And then I'll order all my bits I need for the bottom bit to that expansion tank. Right, I've had to get a little bit inventive with this cooling system. I've managed to get those 3 Jubilee clips on that bottom hose, which is a pain. You might have seen on the time lapse. You need 4 hands to do it, but we got it done. I want to show you the other bits I've kind of been getting on with. So I'm going to put this here, use one of the horn locating points. I'll make some sort of bracket to tighten it up here. The cap is higher than the radiator. The airlock point would be the heater, essentially. Not the end of the world. I'm sure with that pump it should still push it around that system. I am hoping. This looks terrible, doesn't it? So I'm not sure if it's going to stay here. That's going to be my heater valve. It's the valve off a old school London taxi. I've done that because it's a recirculating valve. So basically the coolant will come up here through there into the radiator, fill the radiator up, but not be able to get out again until that valve is opened, and then it will flow in and out essentially. There is a bypass here though, so that this will always be allowed to go up, around and back down again into wherever I can get this hose to kind of mount at some point. It looks a little bit kind of, yeah, not great. So I'm going to tidy it all up and get some decent bits. What do you think about that heater kind of control valve being there? I'll obviously make some sort of bracket so it's not just on its own, because it's going to have a wire coming to it, which operates that valve open or closed. Shouldn't affect my wiring or anything. It just doesn't look great. But yeah, it is what it is, I think. So yeah, it's a work in progress, but it is progressing. But I've run out of time today. So I'm going to come back tomorrow and see if I can kind of figure out the rest of the routing of that cooling system. If I can, it'll be happy days. Good morning, I'm back in the garage. So I ordered loads of parts for the cooling system yesterday, so they should be here today, maybe tomorrow. So I thought I'll kind of park that for now and we'll get on with something else. So what I want to show you, which I've been keeping a little bit of a secret, is my intake. What I'm going to do for my throttle body and kind of intake system for this engine. Now, I'm going for something a little bit different due to the space kind of restrictions in MGB. So I've not got loads of height above the engine to put on a big manifold or anything, because I have got a couple of manifolds I could use, which are in my pile of bits over here. So there's an ST220 manifold at the bottom and then an S-type one there. Now, I'm not using either of them. What I'm doing is using throttle bodies. So the throttle bodies, I had to make, for the throttle bodies, I had to have these made up. These are a billet kind of adapter to go onto the throttle bodies. Now, they need a little bit of adjustment because they're hitting the cam cover. So I need to get my Dremel in and just kind of adjust them a little bit so they'll bolt up properly. It hits the fuel rail bolt as well as the cam cover bolt. So I need to just profile them in a little bit. That's not an issue. Now these are the throttle bodies I'm going to use. So it's this kind of most compact throttle body I could find, and it is off a Triumph motorcycle. Obviously, Triumph motorcycles use a 3-cylinder engine, so they come with 3 throttle bodies. So it's perfect for my kind of application. So I need to clean those up, and they will go attached to there. But I'm not going to attach them there. I'm going to attach them like that. And I know it's not ideal, but there's not enough room to put them upwards without putting a bulge on the bonnet, which I don't want. But if I angle them out to the side, they'll fit okay. So I'm going to start off by doing that. So I'm going to mark up here and then get my Dremel with my kind of carbide bits on them and just Dremel out little bits until I get these to fit properly. And then we can clean all this up with brake cleaner. Take anything off that we don't need, like these little brackets and stuff. I do need a throttle positioning sensor that's on the end there. And I'm going to try and use this IVAC valve, idle air control valve. So I've got like a little stepper motor in it. And I'm going to use that with something else that I've had made, this. So I'm going to use this as like my intake manifold plenum, if you like, so I know what pressure is in each one of these. Now, I don't know where I'm going to put that yet because it's got a big thing. I need to drill a hole into each one of these and put like a vacuum connector so that I know what pressure is on each one. There's lots of work to do on here, but I think I've got all the parts for it, so it's something I can really get on with. So as I mentioned, what I kind of need to do first is make a rough kind of idea what's hitting and where. So I know that's hitting there, like that, and I know that hitting there, which means, although I think if I get this one sorted, I think that's the main one that's stopping it. I think that's only hitting because that is, oh no, maybe not. Okay, well, let's Dremel that out as well. It's weird that that one would hit and this one not though, isn't it? Which I don't quite get, but never mind. Same on this side. Get that in roughly the right place. Look up here. So I've got witness marks now, exactly where I need to kind of Dremel bits away. So I'm going to get this in the vise and yeah, just start kind of plugging away at getting all this kind of fitting nicely onto those kind of intake manifolds. There you go, that's them in place. I've only managed to use 2 bolts on each because these ones, although they're the right size for the standard manifold, they're not long enough to engage with this one. So I'm going to nip out and get some bolts for these, and then we can look into how we're going to, or where we're going to mount the kind of vacuum points for them that isn't going to get in the way of anything else. Right, I've been out to the shops, I've bought some bolts. Not what I wanted to use, I wanted to use nice Allen caps, but it is what it is. Maybe I'll replace them at some point. I had to cut some of them down so they can fit. They're all nice and in and tight now, so that's good. So I can get on with the next bit, which is putting the elbows on to see where they all fit. And then I can mark up to cut my holes for my vacuum lines. How good does that look? Looks really mean, doesn't it? Wow. Yeah. I think the bonnet still closes, but I need to test it. It closed and didn't foul anything, and there was about that much gap with just the elbows on. I tested it. But obviously now I've got the intake and I've got the kind of throttle as well, which, yeah, throttles work. I need to find a way of linking the two cables into one and hooking it up to the original MGB accelerator. But, oh, I've got some trumpets coming with some mesh on them to go on the end of each intake. Wow. Now, so I've put the top bands on, or clamps, to clamp the throttle bodies onto the elbows. So I should be able to lift them both off so that I can take the intakes back off and drill and tap for some vacuum points. But I'm just going to sit down and just look at it for a bit. Well, it was just a little bit too good to be true, wasn't it? Just tried to close the bonnet. That one clears, no problem. That one, you can see the height difference that adds. It's a good inch, isn't it? So this one doesn't clear. So I was playing around with the configuration of these. Now, the reason I put it like that is because they're both the same way. So they both open, I thought it was the same way and stuff, and it just means they're mirror imaged. I can flip it around, it's not going to be the end of the world. And obviously there's a lot more room here than there is here because of the way that the bonnet slopes down. But it means that I need to get rid of this. Now this is the stepper motor, or the idle air control valve. Now I was going to try and run two. It looks like I'm going to have to try and run one and see if one's enough. Hopefully it will be. So I'm going to take this off, cut that flat, flip it round, and then we should be good. Why didn't you just take these off in the first place? Rushing. And that looks even better now. There's nothing sticking up here. It's just the two throttle position sensors, one of which I can get rid of. I only really need one, as long as the cables are all equal. That should be fine. So now I need to put some dots on here so I know where I'm drilling, and drill and tap all my vacuum fittings that connect to this idle air control valve, which will also need a filter of some sort, because obviously when the engine's idling, this is essentially becomes a throttle body. So yeah, let me take all them off again and drill some holes and tap them. So that's both of these inlets drilled and tapped to M6 for my vacuum connection. You can see it's just in there. I've ordered some O-rings, they're arriving tomorrow, so I'm not going to tighten them down or anything yet. I might put everything back together because I can unscrew them from when everything's together. I also had a little mess with my cooling system and found some old pipe, which has got like a steel coil in it, so you can bend it into different shapes without it kinking. That's the only one that's kinked slightly, but not enough for me to worry about. It's still going to have good flow through there to that connector down there. So I can now get on with putting all my Jubilee clips around all of these connectors and cutting this bit to length. And then I'll be using the rest of this at the front to connect to that joiner down there that we did at the start of the episode. I don't think you need to see me put all these clamps on, so I'm just going to do it and I'll show you the end. Right, there are all Jubilee clipped on, every single one of them. I raided my collection of old clips and Jubilee clips. You can see that one's just a spring clamp. The rest of them are different Jubilee clips. One day I will make them all the same. Right now, I'm not that bothered. As per my style, really, it is make do with what you have. I've even done the ones down there as well. I've put a P-clip on there and cable tied that there. So that is all nice and that's connected. This needs some sort of clip to keep it there like that. I just don't know how I'm going to get my hand down and do that yet. But I will somehow. Now, this here I've put on with another Jubilee clip and a connector. And my idea is I'm going to use this piece of old tube and go, not like that, if you imagine, into the front wheel arch and then hook up with the bottom of the radiator there. There's a little pipe. Yeah, I need to hook up with. So it'll be around about there where that bolt is, just below that, where that will connect to. So I'm going to get on with drilling a hole in here. First of all, though, I just want to make sure that that's the right place for my overflow by putting the fans on roughly and just see if they all fit. Well, I'm rather running out of space to kind of do things. Need to have a really big tidy up. But this is the kit that's frontline supplied to fit fans on your MGB electric fans. So you start off by assembling this kind of frame here. They come with all the bits. And then it comes with a step-by-step instruction. You put these fans on there, bolt them up, and then it comes with instructions to show you how to actually bolt them to the car. And it's with spacers that go to the back of the kind of radiator mount, which I don't have, because obviously this is for an MGB V8. But I'm going to make it work somehow that I need to kind of figure out. But yeah, I'm going to assemble this and I'll show you what it looks like. As per seemingly everything I do, I've not got the right size bolts. I need M8, and they need to be longer, which is frustrating because I've literally just been to the shops and bought M6 bolts. Never mind. I'm going to have to stop with the cooling again and move back on to the intake. There are the fans, though. They look good. They will fit with this. I need to move this just probably a couple of... I'll probably use the other bolt that the horn bolts onto and then figure out another way to mount the horn itself. There's loads of room here. I know it doesn't look it, but there is more room than you think when the bonnet is shut. So I'm going to put these back on and get it all looking good. Right. I'm shattered. The bonnet is shut, which is good. And the intakes are in, and that overflow tank for the coolant. See, I can't even think. Overflow tank for the coolant is also in place, and there's loads of room for the coolant tank. The intake and those throttle bodies are millimeters from touching the bonnet. Any bump in the road, they will be touching. So I'm going to have to think of something to kind of bring them down, maybe just like a degree. I want to try and show you them from underneath the bonnet. I don't know if it's going to work. Oh, there you go. You can see them just there on the right above that hose. You can see there's, in fact, I don't know if they are touching or not. If they are, it's only slight. I'm going to take it as a win though, because I never thought I'd be able to get an intake on this at all and get it to fit. So the fact that it is fitting is good. I just need to have a massive tidy up. It's starting to look so much like a car now, and a good one. Right, one thing left to do, and that's fit that bottom pipe from the expansion tank to the bottom radiator hose. I am going to drill a hole in this front kind of inner wing, so to allow the pipe to go through. Yeah, that's it really. And then I need to tie them all together underneath. Hopefully I've got enough Jubilee clips. If I don't, I'll order some. But you'll get the rough idea anyway. Okay, so that looks really good. You can see it in there and hooking around there. Now you see how I cleared the paint away there? I'm just going to put a riv nut and then bolt that in there just to keep it out of the way of the front wheel. So I'll do that. I can't film it, it's too tight, but I'll show you what it looks like afterwards. Now, if you can hear anything in the background, the heavens have just opened. Oh, it's just dying off. That is all secure, that pipe. I will show you what it looks like. I'm actually quite proud of this now. It's kind of such tight packaging, and we've managed to make something that looks like it belongs, if you know what I mean. So I'm happy. As I showed you, it goes through there for a grommet. Goes up there on a P-clamp there with a spacer, because that was too kinked if I put it up too high, but that's perfect now. And the wheel comes to about here, and it should clear it. If it doesn't, I'll have to do something else, but it should be no problem. That's me one concern in there with this. I've tested the steering, it does steer all the way, but the gator is on the rubber hose there, which isn't ideal. Right, I'm just kind of chilling out for 5 before I commit to tidying up a little bit, because everything's a mess. I've been fighting finding tools and stuff today. I wanted to get it done rather than clean though. But I'm just having a cold snack and enjoying this rain before I do that. And then I'll show you what it looks like kind of all tidied up and clean, because we've made really, really, really good progress. Wow. Right, I need to come back in this episode and finish off all the little bits and bobs. But I'm now busy for a few days. So I wanted to kind of get as much done as I could just in this last kind of half an hour that I had. So I'll turn the camera around and show you what the MGB looks like, because I think it looks fantastic. And what do you think? So, stuff still to do. Mount this properly. Make a good line that goes to the top of the radiator. I'm not sure if I'm going to leave it like that. We'll see. Make a shroud that goes around the radiator and bolts this to that. Because obviously that's where that should be, with those stays there. So, and paint it and make it look nice and get some new foam for the top and stuff. But yeah, I mean, still, we've made such good progress already. So yeah, I'm going to say goodbye for tonight, and I will see you bright and early on our morning at some point soon. Hello, now I'm back in the garage for a couple of hours this evening, just to try and get some stuff done, because I've got more of a full day tomorrow. So whatever painting and things I want to get done now, so it's dry for tomorrow. So I've come in after my little lad's gone to bed to try and just get those bits done. So that includes that kind of radiator surround, modifying that, drilling some new holes, and then painting it, and potentially underneath the fans where the paint peeled off as well, just paint that black. So I'm going to get on with doing that, and I'll show you some bits and bobs along the way, but I'm just going to rip into it because I want to get it done and I've not got much time tonight. So yeah, I'll give you some updates in a bit. So I've got this off and I've got the fans off. I've elongated these holes because that's where the new ones go on both sides. So that should fit now. So now what I'm going to do is get the fans, which match up with the radiator, put them in line as best as I can, like that, and then make some little tabs that weld onto the back of this and go down. I can bolt this onto this with. It can only go kind of probably halfway down that because the chassis rails are different sizes and it won't fit otherwise. So yeah, basically I'm going to grind that little lip off, weld a tab to both sides, maybe even do it on the back so I don't have to grind that lip off, so that I can put a bolt through the whole way. So there you go, there's the two tabs made. That's the mark where I'm going to kind of weld them. Obviously I've just sprayed some weld through primer just on that bit so that I can weld these, check it fits, and then clean the whole of this up and paint it all in one go. Right, I'm going quick tonight, but keep up. I'm going to do something else now whilst that's drying. So that bit's just taped off there. It's underneath the fans and you can't really see it, so I'm not that bothered about it, to be honest. So I'm just going to get some Pour 15 in there, roughed it up with some 180 grit sandpaper. I'm just going to paint in underneath there and around there, just to have it all one colour, and I'll peel the tape off after I've done. Yeah, just so it all looks kind of neat and tidy. Right, just while that kind of is drying, I've been trying to think of my next issue, and my next issue is going to be the alternator. I have no room for one at all, but I need one. So I think this is what I'm going to do. I have this alternator here. Now the issue with this alternator is the pins are on the back. The B point is there. So the B is what supplies the power, and the other point can do like a low voltage light, all that type of stuff. But anyway, so obviously if you look in there, there's not much room. There is room just to put the alternator like that, backwards and about here. Now it's not going to leave much room for the wires, and it's going to be close to the radiator, but it's going to have to be like that, and I'm just going to have to figure out the wires kind of when I'm doing it. I think I might have to take the radiator out, take that shroud off maybe, and see if I can modify it, the wire point or something. But to start off with, I need to use those 3 holes there as my mounting for with a stub that comes off here to allow the pivot of the alternator, and then from that bolt there to one of these 2 there, I need like a curve that allows the alternator to kind of do that, or just from one with like a rod with an adjuster on it, which maybe goes to that one as well, or something. I don't know. This is the bracket that someone else made for the mounting the alternator on the side of the engine, using that same bottom kind of mount point. So those holes and that stud there are in the right kind of pattern for that bottom bit, if you like. So I need to cut that down there and there to get rid of this bit, because I don't need this bit anymore. And then I can offer it up to the car and see what it looks like, and then it'll be welding some sort of rod that comes out of here out that the alternator attaches to, or drilling a hole and putting a bolt through and then welding that in, or something strong anyway, because it'll be the pivot point for that bottom larger hole on the alternator. So I'm going to get to cutting this out, and then we will kind of roughly mark up what else we need to do. Right, so I'm going to use that M12 bolt as my pivot point, but it's not quite big enough at the moment. So I'm just going to drill out, and it's nearly there, so it'll just be a little skim of a drill, just so this will slide all the way through. It's a really nice snug fit now, so that's good. So now that that's kind of in, we need to get it back in the car, and I need this thread to be just under this point so that I can get a bolt and tighten it. So we need to measure the length this has to be cut at and then welded to that plate. There's my line there that I need to cut, and then we can take that plate off and weld that to the plate, keeping it 100% 90 degrees angle and not deviating, because otherwise I'll have a wobbly alternator. Right, let's go and get that plate. Well, that looks like a nice strong weld. Are you liking this kind of quick-paced, just get stuff done mode? Basically, I'm sick of building this car. I'm not, I'm enjoying it, but I want to get it on the road before the end of summer. So my pace has to pick up. I've got to get stuff done. And all these little bits are the time-consuming bits. So if I can get more boxed off, I can get on with the wiring, and then we'll be happy days. Now that spacer there should be exactly the right kind of size. So I'm going to weld that on just at the bottom and use the top as like the flat bit to kind of clamp against. Well, as long as this 90-degree angle is perfectly correct, that should be as well, because that's completely flush with it. There's an equal gap all the way down, push down as much as it can go. So let's tack that in place. Not pretty, as all my work is functional. There you go, there's the alternator in its kind of final position. I need to make a bracket from there to there that I can slide this on so that I can do that and make it tighter or slacker the belt. It's nice and lined up. It doesn't look like it because that wheel isn't as thick as that one, so the actual ribs are lined up, which is the important bit. So that's good. So I need to paint that up and stuff, but I'm going to leave it there for now. Do one final coat on that, which isn't perfect, but it looks all right. Not that you can see it very well, but down there it does clear. What I'm going to do is just some of the welds that built up. Yeah, you can't see it, can you? Some of the welds there, I'm just going to file flat just in case. But yeah, it's all looking really good. I've got these to go on, which are brand new bonnet stays, which obviously replace this one. So I need to get the alternator mounted up, paint that bracket and stuff before I put this kind of radiator shroud on. So let's whip that alternator back off again. Do what filing and stuff I need to do on that mounting bracket, and install it all after it's painted, because I can't take this out when that shroud's in, basically. Right, time for a little update. I have put a ground strap on the engine and tied up, or kind of hose clamped, one of the coolant lines that was kind of just flapping about to the side of the engine with a riv nut, the same as what I did underneath. So let me show you that. You can see the hose clamp there, clamping that one in. So that's a lot more kind of in the right place now, and the earth strap goes to here. I've no idea if that's right. And this earth strap doesn't quite look, I don't know, good enough, but we'll see. I can always buy a thicker and better one if I need to. I might put another one of those on this side. I've not decided yet. I've also primed these after filing that bit flat. So they're ready for a coat of black now, and then we can get everything installed into the car. Right, I've just been kind of plugging away doing these little bits and bobs jobs. So I've mounted the overflow tank for the radiator. I've mounted the starter motor, which was on my list of stuff to do. And what I was doing that because I was waiting for these bits to dry. Now they're dry, I can bolt them up into the car and we can start the process of getting everything kind of bolted up into position. So there's the alternator. Looks a bit better now. It's got a bit of a fresh coat of paint on that little shroud. There's that thing, that's just to protect it. I've made this little spacer and I've flared the end, just hammering a socket in. So that goes over there and it'll clamp it by bolting it there to the back of the engine. And then need to find a bolt for that, but I'll do that once it's installed, if I can get one in. If not, it'll run on 2 bolts, and I think it should be fine. I might see if I can get a different bolt for this, because it's been machined down. I don't actually need it to be machined for my application. Obviously, the last person that did it did need it machined, so I might see if I've got an Allen key bolt or something for that. Put a lock washer on it. So I'm going to get this in, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's in the car. Right, the fan is now bolted into place as the first kind of draft. You can see my tabs at the bottom there are in the right place, securing it. So now I need to measure the gap from there to there and make a spacer. There to there, make a spacer. The same all the way down, so I'll have 8 spacers to make. So that when I bolt it together, it actually clamps up, rather than just kind of sitting there, even though it is not actually going anywhere, to be honest. But I still want to be able to securely bolt it into place. To chop some of these bolts down as well, because they're too long at the moment. But I got longer than I needed, just so I knew they'd be the right ones. So yeah, I'm going to measure all this and cut some spacers up. There we go, there are my spacer sizes. So 6 of them are 45mm. And the 2 lower ones inside are 55 because of this, and this is going to have a washer on this side of it. And the radiator does, in fact, just tilt out slightly just to give me clearance for the alternator. So I'm going to make those up just out of some tubing that's in the vise. So yeah, you can watch me do that. Wow, it looks really good. Oh. There is a gap between the radiator and that pipe, it's just very close. And the throttle bodies, cooling system, fans, radiator, alternator. We achieved so much. Wow, we did really achieve a lot this episode. I know it wasn't my normal type of episode, I've just done a lot, and I've not probably filmed as much as I normally do. But, I mean, look at how much we actually got done, and not without issues as well, so really proud of that. I think it looks excellent, and I think it's going to be a hell of a car once we're finished with it. Once you start bolting things on like radiators and alternators and throttle bodies and things, it starts to become real. Now I need to make an exhaust system and I need to wire the car. As you can tell, as I say at most episodes, I'm putting off the wiring. There is method to my madness though. I wanted everything in its place so that I know where I can run the wires and what I need to run the wires to. So I think I will get on with the exhaust next episode, and then we'll do the wiring after that at some point one day. So yeah, please like the video, comment on it, tell me if you think it looks good or bad, or you would have done it differently. Subscribe to the channel because it really helps, and I will see you next time round to make more progress on my MGB Jaguar V6.